Hello and welcome to the Road to Rec League podcast. I'm Callum, and in today's episode we are going to be talking about the draft tournament that I was a part of about a week ago. So a little bit late to recording this because of a rather busy weekend, but thankfully I have a slightly longer weekend. Took off the Monday because of how busy actually it was going to be. So on the plus side, I've got a bit of time today to sit down and actually sort of think about Monday, make some notes, and have a bit of a chat about it. So I think last episode I talked about sort of the preparation steps I was taking in order to be prepared for this draft tournament that was being put on in Swindon. Excuse me. And I wanted to talk about what it is, then go into the team I was a part of, and do a sort of quick game-by-game breakdown. I mean, really short notes, nothing too crazy, and then just summarize at the end, because there were things I could take away that were really important to me. And really beneficial for my development and growth. And I think it's important to share those because, like I say, if anyone is listening and going through or the same sort of process that I'm going through as an adult learning something new, particularly if it's ice hockey, there might be some little nuggets of gold in there. So let's start from the top. What is this, or what was this draft tournament as a principle? Well, essentially, 30 skaters and 3 goalies. All bought tickets to an event in Swindon, and what happened is, excuse me, again, I don't know why I'm a little chesty today. The teams were randomly picked, so it was I think for the evening session it was red team, blue team, black team, but there was also a session earlier in the day that was like yellow, green, and white, and it allowed different sort of like groups, different capabilities to come together. And basically play some competitive hockey games, because the intention there was not just like scrim and have a good time. It was like, well, actually, there's something on the line here. There's 4, it was so a double round robin 4-game like league, and then a 1-game final between the top 2 place teams of the 3, which I think was, again, really a cool way of doing it. Everyone gets to play 4 games. You know, you win enough, you play a 5th, and goodness me, was that tiring. But we'll get to that in a bit. So, yeah, you go through this double round robin process, and they tried to balance, I suppose, between guys like myself who are at that lower end of the spectrum, let's say like the learn to play into like lower level rec stuff, with people who have had a semi-professional playing career. Never an easy thing to do. I think they did an okay job of it, to be fair. And that's sort of how it was sort of spread over the day. By the sounds of it, the session that was a bit earlier had a slightly higher weighting of more like learn to play and low level rec guys, and maybe would have been better suited to me. However, that was the session I could do, and I'm really grateful for that opportunity to do it. So good fun regardless. Some people even skated across both sessions, which to me feels nuts, because I think after that first one I was exhausted. And even one of the goalies did, and he was the goalie for our team and actually the goalie in our rec league team. And he was absolutely ruined by the end of that day. But he looked like he had a good time. So, and it was a good laugh. So the team, we had a mix actually across our team. We had sort of like you could say like a top line and a bottom line, essentially, because we 10 players aside. You got 1 forward line, 2 forward lines and 2 defensive lines. Sorry. So one of the forward lines was basically like guys who have been playing quite a while. You could just tell by the way they were skating and handling the puck and how cool and calm they were, and they were in the Rec A category, so they've been playing quite a while. And one of the chaps who was also on that first line was someone I bumped into getting a skate sharpening about 5 months ago, and he's been playing for 4 or 5 years. So, there's like a good quality of skater and competency on that top line. And then for the second line, it was myself, another chap from my Rec League team who has been skating for like 3-4 years, but has only been playing hockey for 9 months or so. And then another chap who's been playing for, I think, 2 or 3 years. So again, we were a very sort of fresh line, let's say, and we did mix those lines up as the day went on, just naturally, because you take shorter shifts, longer shifts here and there. So that was kind of the forward side, and then on D we had a ultra experienced guy who's been playing for quite a while, but usually as a forward. But when you're a competent skater, playing D, I think, is a bit easier to adapt to. And then we had a couple of other people who have been playing for quite a while, and another person who's been doing it for a few years. So a good blend. And then our goalie has been a goalie for a couple of years now as well. So yeah, like a really nice blend. And I have to say, in terms of a team atmosphere, it was actually really nice. It was really relaxed. Clearly people wanted to win, but they weren't getting to the point where it's like shouting at teammates or trying to like limit the ice time of the people who had played less. It was really just a case of like let's keep everyone as fresh as we can, short shifts where we can, and like have a good time. And that was really epitomized when in some of the games, like the second line started first. Like we alternated for the round robin games, and we'll get to that in a sec. But yeah, really lovely team, really lovely people, and a nice blend of experience and newbies. So roll around sort of to game one then. So I'm going to do a really short breakdown by each game. And the first game is a very, very short breakdown because I was super nervous. I think that I've kind of gotten into my own head a little bit. This was my first opportunity at competitive hockey. Like I've scrimmed and I've done stuff like that before. Obviously, we talked about that in the podcast, and I've had a really good time doing it. But it's a little bit different when there's a bit more on the line. It's a little bit different when you're pushing. And I think it just kind of got to me a little bit for that first game. I was really, really stiff. I couldn't really find my way out there. Sort of struggled to sort of give and receive passes a little bit, and also didn't help that we didn't get a warm up. It was literally just like, right, you're going on, you're playing. So I didn't really get to do my little routine, and I felt a little bit on edge, I think is probably the best way of explaining it. The team still managed to win, and we had a good time, so it's fine. But I say from a personal perspective, I was a bit disappointed at that first game, but I think it was really me just working the nerves out because it's the first time I've had to go toe-to-toe with anyone in that kind of environment. So, and whilst I am competitive, that does then mean I put pressure on myself to succeed. I'm that kind of competitive, not the kind of seamlessly confident and thinks I'm the best kind of competitive. I'm more the frustrated if I don't get things right first time and put a lot of pressure on myself. So, I mean, it is what it is, and I can learn a lot from that experience, I think. Which is encouraging. So we went into the second game. So that first game was against blue team. We then played the black team. And this is where the second line got to go first, which was cool because I got to skate up to the middle and take my first ever face-off. So I've never practiced a face-off. I've never taken a face-off. And I've talked quite a lot about wanting to do that. And I've actually identified some skate tiles. And I mean, it's going to take a bit of time to sort out the side yard, but I think I might just buy the skate tiles anyway, and then I can just prop them up somewhere else in the meantime and work on those now and again. So I got to take my first ever face-off, and while I technically was the first player to make contact with the puck, I did sort of knock it forwards. So I went backhand grip, choked up on it, like I did everything I've watched, and I was quicker off the mark, but I basically just despite being a bit quicker off the mark, knocked the puck forward, and that's fine, I guess. Is what it is. So that's what happened, and then we get into the actual game. So it was a really hard game, and a really close loss. We lost by 1 goal, I think, in the end. I had a couple of really good opportunities, and the goalie for the black team was like a really good. Just everyone was regarding how good he was on the day. So to get anything past him was a bit of a minor miracle. And I managed to get a shot off that kind of I've got a habit of doing this, I guess. It's like just to the right of the body, so it like seems to seep through like elbow sort of area, and it just caught a little bit more of his like attire than I'd hoped. So it got past him but didn't get past the goal line, and it was swept up by a defenseman before I could get in there and grab it. So but a nice shot, and I found myself in a nice position, so I can be really proud of that. It was good. I was feeling a little bit more comfortable at this point. I was able to make a few more passes, and that was really encouraging. And then with that confidence, maybe came a slight lack of focus or whatever. Basically, I lost an edge skating at full speed, which was slightly terrifying because it's the first time I've done that in hockey gear. And there's that kind of, when you're trying to win, you play that extra 5% harder maybe. So I lost an edge and ended up going full speed just into someone. Absolutely bodied this lady, and I felt terrible. And I went down to apologise. She didn't seem best pleased, but I did say sorry because that's just how I am, and I wanted to check in and make sure they were okay. It was one of those ones where it just happened, and I was like, so this is what that feels like, that kind of helplessness as you barrel at full speed into someone. But a really good game, even though it was a close loss. And I think I was only on for 2 against, and they scored 4. So like for me, that's the kind of like, oh, okay, well, I was as bad as anyone else then, essentially, wasn't I? If we've got 2 lines and our line conceded 2 goals, fair assumption. We probably conceded 2 goals on the other line, there or thereabouts, minus maybe a couple of quick changes or whatever. But it was really good. Then we played the blue team again, and it was a close win. And the team just played a really nice passing game. So that was something I noticed about our team versus the other two. Really quite happy to get everyone involved, quite happy to make 3, 4, 5 passes up the ice to get into a scoring position, whereas some of the other teams that had, let's say, some maybe better top end players were just skating through the zones, and it meant that eventually they either scored or got sort of choked by 2, 3 defensive players. So anyway, it is what it was, but was what it was, is what it is. But we made loads of good passing plays, and that was really exciting. And I actually got to get involved in a couple of those, made a couple of really nice breakout passes, which is good, and also managed to pressurize the D to eventually sort of led to a turnover. So I went in on the forecheck and kind of kept the puck in zone rather than allowing an easy breakout, and then it ended up bouncing off someone else, and then someone else made a pass and scored. So I didn't directly get an assist, but I blocked a pass, I got in the way, and then the next breakout pass wasn't able to be clean and ended up in the hands of our forwards and scored. So I can be really proud of that. I influenced the game, and that was good. Yeah, really good. Really enjoyed that. And again, nice to just test yourself a bit and get stuck in. Okay, so final round robin game then was against the black team, and it was a tough loss. I think people were really starting to feel it by game 4 in the legs, and because you go back to back, we played 1-2 and then 3-4, and we played the difficult team the second back to back both times. So the blue team was slightly worse than the black team. So we ended up just getting a slightly tougher deal of it, I think, in that back to back sort of scenario, which is fine. It is what it is. And the black team were fresh when they played us in that game. But I think at that point we'd realised because we beat the blue team, we were guaranteed to be in the final. And people were sort of a little bit more relaxed. And so I think we ended up losing 6 to something or whatever. But again, I was on ice for 2 goals against. And we got a bit unlucky sort of early on where we had an offside call that probably shouldn't have been. There was one that was definitely offside, but there was one that probably shouldn't have been, and that called back a goal. And I think that kind of just, I don't know, probably got in people's heads a little bit. But it was good. I had another shot on goal, which was encouraging. Again, against the difficult goalie. So I'm getting my shots off against someone who's making the save, sadly. But managed to get sort of 3-4 shots on goal over the course of the day. And it was really nice, actually. It was low glove. And it was what I wanted to achieve. So I can be really proud of the process. But yeah, basically end up with the puck on the stick in the slot and let off a relatively quick release. And it was low glove, and he just sort of snapped it up. And I was like, oh, damn it, this guy's good. But that's how you learn, isn't it? You learn by playing against people that are better at the end of the day. And other people managed to score a couple of goals past him. So, he's not invincible. He is human. And therefore, I can't exactly give him all the flowers. I could have done better, clearly. But he was, definitely on form, which was good to watch. And there was, one where it was a bit frustrating, actually. So one of the goals against I scored, that was scored while I was on the ice. Basically, I just couldn't keep up with the forward. I was trying to just stay with him, and he just had legs on me. And that was one of those ones where you're there, not helpless, because I was giving it everything I had, but it just wasn't enough. And that's when I could really start to feel the gap in capability. It's there all the time, but it's when you're full pelt and you're like, I'm not closing in on this guy, and he is just beelining for the goal. And I'm not even really closing the gap. He's starting to just eke away a little bit with the puck. Don't get me wrong. I think this guy plays in fringes of, if not already, semi-pro stuff. So he was a good young player, but is what it is. It was good though. Like I say, good fun. And then we headed into the final. So the final was a rematch of the previous game I just talked about. So it was red versus black, and it was a 5-2 loss in the end. Which is what it is. I was involved in the build-up to the first goal. Made a nice little outlet pass, and again zone entry, but not technically an assist, because I think after after the guys entered the zone, one of their players touched the puck and passed it back out, and then we ended up with the puck again almost immediately after. So I say I didn't technically get any points over the course of the 5 games, but I felt like I was involved in and directly involved in some of the play that led up to goals. So I can be really proud of that. And it was nice that we ended up with a goal in that game. So we lost 5-2 in the end. The other goal was just a slap shot from the red line that somehow went in. It was absolutely ridiculous. It must have been like multi-screened or something, because it was just some guy taking a weird punt, like just slap shot before the change, and it ends up going in. And we all went absolutely wild, which was great fun. Really, really good fun. And also for that goal, that first goal, after making the pass and making that breakout pass, I skated pretty hard to be a trailing outlet option. So again, was there in the right kind of place. So if I'm thinking about this sort of positional game in my head, making a pass, skating, getting in as a trailing option, like that can be something I am capable of doing at the end of the day, which is really good, really encouraging for me. The other team had legs at the end of the day. I think that was the big difference. They had a lot of, I say, slightly stronger top-end talent, slightly stronger depth, actually, frankly. They were probably about 15-20% better than we were, just generally. And a couple of their guys were, I had one former multi-year semi-pro and a current semi-pro. So you're sort of thinking, okay, well, my team had me. And that's not just to rag on myself like I usually would, but to put it into perspective, you've got someone who's played for their entire lifetime at a level where they are receiving and exchanging money and or equipment for being as good as they are, and you've got someone who's learning to play the game at 30 years old who can't do a backwards crossover or can't do crossovers in a game. So it's sort of like slightly different levels of capability between the pair of us. And so the fact that we were on opposing sides probably gave the other team an advantage, lo and behold. But it was good. It was really good fun. And I have to say the attitude was pretty good. There was a little bit of like grumbling here and there, and a couple of characters who I think played not, I wouldn't say physically, but just didn't play within the spirit of the game. Like there was a lot more slashing and than I was expecting, I'll be honest. So that was kind of, I guess, the 5-game summary. So we ended up finishing second of 3, which I'll absolutely take. Second in the league, and we lost in the final to the better team. It's going to happen, and that's okay. What was interesting was just that kind of mentality piece. So I genuinely believe that the beauty of sport is you play the games because anyone can win. Does that mean they're likely to? Absolutely not. Like it was very unlikely that we were going to beat the team that we were up against. They were just better. But I have to say, until like it went to 3-4, or probably like 4-1. That was until then. I was sort of like, okay, well, look, there's still a chance. Like, this goalie's been dynamite. I don't think he's let more than 3 in all night. Sorry. And most games were 1 or 2 goals against. So, like clearly very capable for what was quite an open scrim with no. I'll get that in a bit. But I was gonna say no icing. But like I say, I kind of felt like it was possible, which is really good. That kind of mentality, I think, is a good place to be. So, had a really good time. Really good time. So I'm just going to get into a bit of a general summary. Things I could take away that not just about like, oh, I did this in the game or I did that in the game, but let's talk a bit more holistically. Let's talk about things that I think I learnt by going through this process. And so just a sort of general summary. So what was really apparent in that evening session was I was the worst skater there. And there's sort of no two ways to say that. I didn't have the best hands, probably again, like a bottom third. But in terms of skating, I wasn't there. And that's really okay because I've been doing it for half a year, just over half a year, But at the end of the day, I still found a way to get involved. And despite my skating being pretty abysmal, I was able to break up plays defensively and stick with some people who were doing some stuff that were pretty capable just by positioning myself in an okay place. So, like, while I was far and away the worst, I think I still found a way to leverage the skill set I do have, which is good. There were some seriously high-level players there that I wasn't expecting to be there, who made even our competent skaters look a bit silly sometimes. So again, I must have looked even worse. But at the same time, you've got someone there who's been skating for, say, 6-7 years or whatever, 8 years, and they're still getting beaten by these extremely capable players. So something I can take is at the end of the day, it's even those who are good are getting beaten. So, all right, I might look a bit worse doing it, but if the outcome's broadly the same, at least I'm not that much worse. What was really encouraging, I got stuck in. I wasn't afraid to get stuck in and be a little bit physical. Some guy tried to skate behind the net, and I think he thought he could just, sort of like skate backwards past me. And I just stood my ground, sort of bumped him, and then he had to break out in the opposite direction, which was effectively with a couple more of our players. So I was able to get a bit stuck in, a few stick lifts on some particularly good players, again, who have got a bit of a track record of playing in some higher sort of teams and leagues. So I was able to get a few stick lifts in and break up some plays and do things like that, block a shot, stuff like that. And if not just blocking a shot, like closing down a shot to the point at which it's pointless to take the shot. So that's something that I think doesn't happen an awful lot in Rec League, is when someone's lining up a slap shot from the blue line, not many people seem to just skate directly towards them. And I find myself doing it probably more than I should, considering I'm not paid. But yeah, that's something I sort of picked up on as well, which I'm really pleased with. Something else, 3 shots on goal, I think it was 4 in the end. One of them was more of like a fumbly chip. But some good shots on goal, and the goalie was capable. But I'm really proud that I made him work for it. Like, it wasn't just a muffin to the body. One of them squeaked through. One of them he had to flash the leather. Right, one of them was just literally like a chip shot deflection, and the other one was at the pads. So it wasn't like they were particularly great shots, but I made him work for it. Something else I learned: so they didn't cut the ice that often. Ice that's uncut, hard work. Didn't love that, I'll be honest. When it started to get a little bit snowy, it was difficult for me, particularly. You could see that other people were struggling, but other people have probably experienced that before and are also much more capable skaters than I am. So it was a bit tough, and that's something that I think would have been nice, honestly. Bit of a shame, but there we go. Something I'm really proud of then. So I think it's important to reflect on positives and negatives, and I've talked about being the worst skater out there, and I've talked a bit about, like not scoring any points over the weekend and things like that. I've also talked a little bit about positional play and things and things I'm proud of. So something I was really proud of during the session was that I got absolutely robbed a couple of times, and not robbed, but like I got pickpocketed on a couple of occasions. But there was never any question about the fact that I was going to work damn hard to get back after that. So. And a couple of times it worked out to be that I was able to be part of the play to stop their play, if that makes sense. But every time, and there was one particular where I think I was in, so I was playing effectively left wing, coming down the left side, and then tried to basically cut in and then cut back out again, and sort of toe drag round the guy, but I think he saw it coming, frankly, and just stick lifted me, took the puck and started going. And without even thinking about it, I just got on my bike, so to speak, and sort of started back checking and trying to make up the ground and try and just distract and get in the way and do something, But that was without fail, constantly hard skating backwards from the offensive zone to the defensive zone. I've said it before, if I don't do it, I stand out as even being more shit than I am. So it's imperative that I put that effort in, and I'm really proud that I did. So that was good. It also made me realize I hate making those mistakes. The frustration that and I know it in myself, I've finished a shift and I'm like, oh, fuck's sake. And it'd be like, I can't believe I gave the puck away. Even if I put a big effort in to try and recover it or even manage to recover it, I get frustrated that I've made the mistake in the first place. Which has its ups and downs, obviously. Good, it's identifying that I'm making mistakes and trying to find ways to improve them. Bad, if it starts to linger and impact the rest of my game. Now, thankfully, I'm able to brush stuff off the next time I get onto the ice, but while I sit on the bench, I do get a bit pissed off. Not outwardly, though, I bury most of it inside. In short, it was a really fun experience. There were things that could have improved. There was no icing. That was a bit frustrating. It would have been nice to have an additional ice cut as well, at least one. And the teams could have been a little bit more balanced, but it was fine, really. Really, what it opened my eyes up to was the first taste of competitive hockey, and it gave it to me in a really digestible way. Like, at the end of the day, if I get picked as an alternate for my rec league team, odds are I'm going to take 2 shifts, maybe 1 shift, maybe no shifts if it's a bit tight. So when you get taken as an alternate and you play 1 or 2 shifts, are you really getting the same taste as playing, 5 20-minute games, basically, or 18-minute games? Well, the short answer is no, you're not. And I think for that first taste of competitive hockey, absolutely perfect. Got stuck in, was exhausted, could hardly stand. Got plenty of ice time. Got to experience playing against people that are just so good, and the pace of play was quick. So it kept me moving constantly, and it meant that it's like, okay, well, short shifts are my only option. Like, work hard, and we'll see what we can do. So it really opened my eyes to that sort of way of playing the game, and the capability levels that are out there outside of just my own team and a couple of teams I've trained with. And I think that was a really healthy thing to experience. And also gave me a bit of that kind of team camaraderie sort of thing as well. And you can just see it elevate when people are trying to win. And that's great. So really awesome first experience of competitive hockey. Led nicely into a good week worth of training. But we won't touch on that today because this episode is all around this one thing. So next week, we'll be doing a bit of a summary on some training stuff I've been working on, as well as, I guess, setting out the stall for probably the next 4 months. In fact, as I'm recording this, 4 months and a day, because I've got a bit of a target. And I think with a target in mind, that is going to help focus my training and my effort. So we'll touch on that more next week. For now, thanks ever so much for listening to this rambling of what was a really enjoyable Monday evening. And I hope you have had a lovely time wherever you are. Again, thanks again for listening. And until next time, bye for now.